Hi everyone! This second week of our training course deals with different approaches to mitigating the risk of carbon leakage and their implications for the linking of emissions trading systems. The key question is how different measures for carbon leakage prevention can cause competitive distortions and how to address these distortions in the context of a linkage. So first, what is carbon leakage? In general terms, carbon leakage is the phenomenon whereby emission reductions achieved in a jurisdiction are offset to some extent by an increase in emissions abroad. Difference in stringency of climate policy between jurisdictions are the condition for carbon leakage to occur. Specifically, a more stringent climate policy than in other jurisdictions can affect the international competitiveness of domestic firms, therefore resulting in both increased production and increased emissions of competing foreign firms. This is the competitiveness channel of carbon leakage, and here anti-leakage measures can certainly do something about it. A second channel through which carbon leakage can materialize is through global energy markets. That is, if one or more jurisdictions with more stringent climate policies than others make up a significant share of global demand for fossil fuels, carbon leakage occurs as a result of reduced fossil fuel prices. In this case, and unlike the previous, governments do not readily dispose of instruments to unilaterally intervene and limit carbon leakage. Climate policies that regulate energy-intensive and trade-exposed industries, as is often the case with an ETS, are normally accompanied by measures for limiting the risk of carbon leakage related to competitiveness deterioration. If the policy is an ETS, then there are three main approaches to mitigating carbon leakage risk. First, compensating for excessive costs through free allocation emission allowances. Second, leveling the playing field through border carbon adjustments. And third, directly promoting low-carbon innovation. Any anti-leakage instrument that a jurisdiction may wish to use needs to be compatible with the broader relevant trade regimes, say the WTO rules in the EU, and in the EU, also the European single market. This is always true, that is, whether an ETS is linked to another ETS or not. Now consider linking. On the one hand, by inducing partial or full convergence of allowance prices, ETS linking removes or reduces any internal competitive distortion caused by differences in carbon prices. On the other hand, convergence of allowance prices after linking can highlight or even exacerbate competitive distortions given differences in measures for carbon leakage prevention. We are going to focus on differences in free allocation, as the implications for linking are most direct, and because some literature, not much, does exist. However, be aware, as you probably already are, that both border carbon adjustments and innovation policies are gaining relevance, certainly in Europe, as anti-leakage approaches. We will talk about this in the live class at the end of this week. So let's first recall the main approaches to free allocation of emission allowances and then the main indications that we get from the literature. There are three main methods of free allocation: grandfathering, fixed base period benchmarking, and output-based allocation. Under grandfathering, firms simply receive free allowances according to their historical emissions multiplied by an emission factor. In the ETS, grandfathering was used in the first two trading periods, that is, up to 2012. Both under fixed base period benchmarking and under output-based allocation, emission efficiency benchmarks are applied to compute the allocations. The key difference here between the two methods lies in the output that is considered. It is the level of output in a past base year with fixed base period benchmarking, and it is current output with output-based allocation. Crucially, adjusting allocations to current output means that in effect firms receive an output subsidy, which, all else equal, increases with the carbon price. In the ETS, fixed base period benchmarking has been used since phase 3, and elements of output-based allocation were introduced in phase 4. Now turning to the literature. This can be summarized according to three issues. First, competitive distortions caused by different allocation rules, regardless of linking. Second, competitive distortions caused jointly by linking and different allocation rules. And third, the harmonization of allocation rules in the context of linking. Differences in allocation method between ETSs can produce competitive distortions irrespective of linking. An example, in one ETS, allowances are auctioned, while in another ETS, allowances are grandfathered. Firms under the first ETS incur real carbon costs, while firms under the second ETS only face opportunity costs. So clearly, differences in allocation can disadvantage firms that have to purchase more allowances than their competitors. Another example is that of an ETS which uses output-based allocation. Here, regulated firms receive an implicit output subsidy, which by definition can distort competition in a market. Let's now consider linking. While linking reduces or eliminates competitive distortions related to carbon price differentials between linked ETSs, it does not address other potential distortions due to differences in allocation rules. In fact, it is possible to think of cases where changes in allowance prices caused by linking accentuate or attenuate competitive distortions given different allocation methods. Output-based allocation, in particular, stands out as being potentially problematic. I'll give you an example. Consider ETS A and ETS B. Before linking, the allowance price in A is lower than the price in B. Also, A uses output-based allocation. After linking, the allowance price will rise in A, and therefore the implicit output subsidy with it. Now, if output-based allocation was already a cause of competitive distortions before linking, the price increase in A after linking would amplify those distortions. Finally, real-world experience with ETSs suggests that harmonization of allocation rules is not strictly necessary for a linkage to take place. However, two remarks. First, the importance of harmonization is directly related to the intensity of competition between firms under different ETSs, something that varies from one case to another. Second, harmonization is likely to be increasingly asked for with increasing scarcity of emission allowances. With this, I stop. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to meeting you this Friday.
With a contribution from the LIFE program of the European Union.